I got home earlier than expected that night, around 6, I think, which was rare. I'd been working in San Jose all week, and Friday traffic usually led any hope of making it back before dark. But my last meeting got canceled, so I took it as a sign. I didn't tell Lisa. I thought it would be a nice surprise. Maybe we'd open a bottle of wine, order in, and just be together for once without work or phone screens between us. Funny how we always imagine these moments going one way. I pictured her smile when I walked through the door, maybe a hug, maybe her saying, "You're home early," with that little laugh of hers. But reality met me with something else entirely. The house was dim when I walked in. Not dark, but like someone had purposely set the mood. The lights in the kitchen were soft and warm, just one lamp on in the corner. I noticed music playing faintly, something jazzy and slow. And then the smell hit me. Wine. Expensive wine. Lisa never drank the fancy stuff unless we were celebrating something. But there was something else layered beneath it, sharp and unfamiliar. Cologne. A man's cologne. Strong, musky, the kind that lingers long after the person's left the room. Not mine. I haven't worn cologne in years. I paused at the entryway, keys still in hand. There was a strange stillness to everything, like the air itself was trying to hold its breath. Then I saw the jacket, draped over one of the bar stools at the kitchen island. Dark gray. Well, definitely not mine. Too big to be Lisa's. It looked expensive, like something tailored. A couple of receipts poked out of the inside pocket. I didn't touch it. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink. One was stained with lipstick, Lisa's shade. The other had smudges, like it had been held in large hands. Both glasses still had a bit of red left in the bottom. On the counter nearby, an empty dessert box sat in the trash, label half torn but recognizable, Pine and Fig. A restaurant Lisa and I had never been to together, though I'd heard of it. Trendy, upscale, and notoriously hard to get a table unless you booked weeks in advance. My chest tightened, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe someone had stopped by. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I didn't want the truth. Not yet. I called her name softly, and a second later I heard footsteps coming down the hall. Lisa appeared from around the corner, wrapped in the pale blue robe I bought her last Christmas. Her hair was damp, clinging to her neck in waves, and she looked flushed, like she'd just stepped out of a hot shower. She paused for half a second when she saw me, then smiled wide, like nothing was wrong. "Well, hey," she said, acting surprised but not startled. "You're home early." I nodded slowly, eyes flicking back to the jacket, then to the wine glasses, then back to her. She followed my gaze, saw what I saw, and didn't even blink. "Oh, that's Dan's," she said breezily, pointing at the jacket. "From next door." The sink started leaking again, and I didn't want to call a plumber, so he came by to help. You know how handy he is. She walked over to the sink and casually picked up the glasses, rinsing them as she spoke. "The wine's just leftovers from girls' night. Megan and Julia came over earlier. We split a bottle before they left. You just missed them." I watched her as she moved, the way she avoided looking at me for too long, the ease in her tone that felt practiced, like she had the answers ready before I even asked the questions. "You had a girls' night today?" I asked carefully. She said without turning. Spur of the moment. We hadn't caught up in a while. "And Dan came over during that?" "Well, after actually," she said, drying one of the glasses with a dish towel. "Right after they left, the sink started acting up. He offered to take a look. Super quick, 20 minutes, tops." I walked over to the trash and pulled out the dessert box. "You ordered from Pine and Fig?" She turned then, giving me a soft, almost amused smile. "Yeah, I figured I'd treat myself. It's not like I'm going out much these days." "Did Megan and Julia eat with you?" "No, they left before dinner. I got hungry later." I looked at the box again. The timestamp on the sticker said 7:52 p.m. I had left San Jose around 5:45 and got home just after 6:20. That timeline didn't make sense. "Jason," she said gently, walking over to me now. "What's going on? You're acting Weird. I just wasn't expecting this, I replied. The jacket, the wine. The whole setup feels. She cut me off, her tone still calm but with a hint of offense now. Feels like what? That I'm not allowed to have wine with friends? That I can't ask our neighbor for help with plumbing? I didn't say that, I muttered. But you're implying it. God, Jason, I can't believe this. She sighed and stepped away from me, arms crossed over her robe now. So I'm guilty for having a night to myself? No, I said quickly. It's just, I stopped. I didn't know how to explain it without sounding paranoid. She looked genuinely hurt now, like I'd accused her of something cruel and unforgivable. I get that we've both been stressed lately. Work's been insane. But I didn't expect this kind of mistrust from you. I opened my mouth to say something, to ask about the cologne, maybe, or why the neighbor would wear a suit jacket to fix a sink. But she didn't give me a chance. You know what? She said, shaking her head. Let's not do this tonight. You just got home. Let's not start a fight over nothing. And just like that, she flipped it. I was the problem now. I was the suspicious, insecure husband projecting drama into an otherwise innocent evening. She smiled again, this time gentler, like she was being the bigger person. I missed you, she added softly, stepping closer and placing her hands on my shoulders. Let's just enjoy the night, okay? I looked into her eyes, searching for something. Guilt, discomfort, anything that might tell me what she wasn't saying. But all I saw was calm, a little too calm. Yeah, I said finally. Okay. We didn't talk about it again that night. I let it go, or at least I acted like I did. But the seed was planted, and even if I tried to bury it under reason and doubt, it kept growing. Something was off. I felt it in my chest, in my gut, and whether I wanted to admit it or not, that night was the first real crack in something I thought was still whole. I just didn't know yet how wide it would spread. After that night, things didn't go back to normal, at least not for me. Lisa acted like nothing had happened. She was cheerful, affectionate even. Overly affectionate, if I'm honest. She started leaving little notes for me again, calling me babe in texts, asking about my day like we were back in year one. At first, I thought maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe she'd picked up on my stress and was trying to meet me halfway. I wanted to believe that, but the more I tried to shake the feeling, the more it latched on. Like something unseen had moved into our house and started changing little things when I wasn't looking. Just subtle shifts at first, things most people wouldn't notice. But I did. She started locking her phone. That wasn't typical. Lisa was never one of those people glued to a screen. She used to leave it face up on the couch or kitchen counter. Now it was always screened down and locked with a new passcode I didn't know. One afternoon I reached for it, just to check the time, and she almost snatched it out of my hand with a laugh that sounded too sharp. You scared me, she said, kissing me on the cheek. Thought you were one of my nosy clients. She tried to play it off, but my gut clenched. Then there were the texts. Constant buzzing. Not a lot, not enough to be obvious, but frequent enough that I noticed. She'd glance at the screen, then quietly excuse herself to the other room. Bathroom, laundry, just checking on the oven. Always something. Never a name, never a full conversation. Just the same rhythm. Buzz, glance, disappear. Her explanations were always light and polished. Just work stuff. Or Megan sent another meme. Or, the realtor keeps bothering me about that stupid listing. I didn't argue, not right away. But I started paying more attention. And then there were the new friends or project colleagues, as she called them. I'd ask who she was meeting after work, and she'd rattle off names I'd never heard before. Eric, Savannah, just people from the campaign, she'd say. But there was no campaign that I knew of. No new project had ever been mentioned before these people started existing in her life. On Saturday mornings, she used to sleep in. That was our thing. Wake up late, make coffee, sit on the back deck like an old couple and talk about nothing. But now she was up early, already dressed, and heading out before I'd even had my first sip of coffee. Jim, she'd say, gotta burn off all those dinner dates with you. But the bag she carried wasn't a gym bag. I'd seen her real one, scuffed and sagging from years of use. This one was new, sleek, and inside, I once caught a glimpse of heels. Not sneakers, high heels. "Since when do you wear heels to the gym?" I asked, trying to sound amused. She laughed. "I don't. They're for after. There's a new smoothie bar by the yoga place. They've got a no sneakers rule." It sounded stupid. She knew it did. But she said it confidently enough that questioning it made me seem like the insecure one. First, I brushed these things off. I didn't want to be that husband, the paranoid, hovering kind. But each new detail added to the silent pile inside me. I didn't confront her because I didn't know what I was confronting yet. I didn't have proof. I had instinct, and instinct alone makes you sound crazy. Still, I watched. Her driving route changed too. I noticed because we used to joke about how she always took the slow, scenic way to work just to get an extra 10 minutes of podcasts. One day, we were having lunch, and she mentioned getting stuck near Fairview on the way to work. I blinked. "Fairview? Why would you be over there?" She didn't flinch. "Waze rerouted me. You know how it is with construction lately." But I checked later. There wasn't any. Not on that side of town. Her new route added 20 minutes to her commute. I knew because I drove it myself the next morning. Twice. At home, small details kept changing almost imperceptibly. The bedroom, for one. She'd started lighting candles in there again. Not just the lavender ones she used to help her sleep, but deep, musky ones, the kind with names like smoked leather and saffron noir. We'd only ever used those for special nights. But now they were lit when I came home, even when she wasn't there. One night, I came back from a late meeting and found the bedroom still faintly glowing. The candle was out, but I could still smell it. The sheets looked recently made, too recently. Pillows fluffed, corners tucked. Not the usual Lisa-style messy but cute way. There were dents on the opposite side of the bed, deeper than from just her. I stared at them for longer than I want to admit. And then the lingerie. That one hit me harder than it should have. Lisa and I used to shop together sometimes. Mostly for fun. I knew her style. I knew what brands she liked, what made her feel *XY. What she swore was overrated and itchy. But one day while doing laundry, I saw a lace bodysuit I'd never seen before. Black with little gold accents. Not a single tag or receipt in sight. I picked it up like it was a snake. It didn't belong in our house. It didn't belong to us. I didn't ask her about it. I folded it carefully and put it back where I found it. That's when I started checking things. Quietly. Not snooping. Not at first. Just checking. I noticed she'd started taking longer showers, and she always brought her phone in with her now. I tested it. Left mine outside the bathroom one day to charge. When I came back, hers was gone. Tucked inside her robe pocket. Sometimes, she'd come home with her hair smelling different. Cologne I didn't wear. A scent I didn't recognize. It wasn't every time, just often enough that I noticed the pattern. Once, she even used a different brand of body wash. Not the one we kept in the shower, but something spicier. I found the bottle later, hidden under the sink in the guest bathroom. All of it, could have had explanations. That's what I kept telling myself. But it stopped feeling like a coincidence and started feeling like choreography. Like I was being managed. Handled. I stopped bringing things up because every time I did, the same thing happened. She made me feel like I was the one losing touch. "Are you okay?" she asked one night when I hesitated after she said she was heading to book club. "You've been acting really distant lately. It's like you're somewhere else all the time." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." "Well," she said, kissing my forehead, "I hope you're not tired of me." I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. The truth was, I wasn't tired of her. I was tired of pretending not to see. There's a strange kind of grief that comes before betrayal fully confirms itself. Creeps in slow like a fog. You start mourning the version of your life you thought was real. Every little lie, every rehearsed excuse, starts unraveling the story you believed in. But instead of anger, you feel hollow, unsteady, like the ground under your feet's been shifting while you were looking the other way. I wasn't ready to accuse her, not yet. I wanted to be wrong, desperately, but the signs were everywhere now, scattered like breadcrumbs I couldn't unsee. And whether or not I followed them, they were already leading me somewhere I didn't want to go. Somewhere the truth was waiting. It happened on a Saturday. The kind of quiet, gray-skied weekend that used to mean sleeping in, waffles, and catching up on life together. But this one started differently. Lisa was up early again, already dressed when I came downstairs. She had her hair tied back, suitcase by the door. She kissed me on the cheek. Fast, distracted. "I told you about the bachelorette thing, right?" she said, grabbing her keys. I stared at her. "What bachelorette thing?" "Oh, I could have sworn I mentioned it. Megan's friend, Claire. Big weekend getaway up in wine country. Girls only. I'll be back Sunday night." Girls only. Of course it was. I wanted to believe her, but my gut had learned better. Still, I nodded. "Have fun." "You okay?" she asked, giving me that soft, practiced look. "You've been a little quiet lately." "I'm fine," I lied. She smiled like she believed me, and then she was gone. Just like that. The house felt heavier after the door shut behind her. I stood there for a while, trying to figure out if I was being paranoid again, or if this was the part where things finally snapped into focus. It didn't take long. That evening, I was scrolling through Instagram, not even looking for anything. I was just bored, distracted, until I tapped through a story posted by a girl Lisa worked with. Someone I barely knew, but who sometimes tagged Lisa in office birthday pics or random boomerangs from happy hour. It was a short video, maybe 6 seconds. A slow pan of a campfire on a wooden patio. Laughter in the background. Dim lights. A wine glass being raised in a toast. And in the corner, barely visible but unmistakably there, Lisa, sitting under a gray blanket, next to a man. Her head was resting on his shoulder. They weren't looking at the camera. They didn't know they were being filmed. But her smile, the way she leaned into him, the way he pressed his face against her hair, it was all too natural, too familiar. You don't touch someone like that for the first time. That kind of comfort comes from repetition. I sat there frozen, phone in hand, heart pounding. I watched the video again, and again. It wasn't Megan. It wasn't Claire. It wasn't Girls Only. It was something else entirely. There was a geotag Birch Grove Lodge. I looked it up. It was about 2 hours north. A rustic, secluded escape kind of place. The sort with hot tubs on decks and panoramic views of pine trees. Couples booked it for anniversaries. Without thinking, I grabbed my jacket and keys. I wasn't sure what I was doing, only that I had to see it for myself. I didn't call ahead, didn't text. I just drove. The roads got darker as I headed north. Rain hit the windshield in light spurts, and the GPS took me onto winding back roads lined with trees. I kept telling myself that maybe I was wrong, that maybe it wasn't Lisa, maybe it was just someone who looked like her. But I knew better. I reached the cabin around 9:30 p.m. I parked down the hill and walked up the gravel path. There were 3 cabins side by side, and the one in the middle had lights glowing behind floor-to-ceiling windows. I crept closer, staying low, careful not to step on branches or make noise. And then I saw her, Lisa, inside by the fire, wrapped in the same gray blanket, curled up against a man on the couch, his arm around her, her bare feet tucked beneath her, her head resting gently on his chest. They looked like a couple who did this every weekend. No tension, no nerves, just routine int asterisk Macy. And then she kissed him. Slow, familiar, not rushed or lustful, worse than that. Tender. The kind of kiss you give someone when you know them, when you love them. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My chest felt like it had been kicked in. I turned around and walked back down the hill, heart pounding in my ears. The gravel crunched under my boots louder than I wanted. I didn't know if I was shaking from adrenaline or heartbreak. Probably both. When I reached my car, I fumbled with the keys and got in, slamming the door harder than I meant to. The sound echoed through the trees. That's when I saw her. She had come out, barefoot, wrapped in the same blanket. She ran toward the car, her face pale in the porch light. Jason? Jason. I started the engine. She banged on the window. Wait. Please. Just wait. Her voice was panicked now. Desperate. She tried to open the door, but I locked it before she could. Jason. It's not. Please just let me explain. I stared straight ahead, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I didn't say a word, and then I drove off. I saw her in the rearview mirror, standing in the middle of the gravel road, still barefoot, still wrapped in the blanket. She was shouting something, but I couldn't hear it. I didn't look back again. I drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. Just the sound of tires on wet asphalt and my own ragged breathing. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. I pulled over at a gas station and sat there, engine idling, trying to wrap my head around what just happened. It was real. It was all real. No more wondering. No more second-guessing. Lisa was cheating. She had lied over and over again. She'd stood in our kitchen, looked me in the eye, and fed me lines about broken pipes and girls' nights while she was off building a second life with someone else. And what hurt more than anything, more than the betrayal, was how calm she looked with him. How at home. Like he wasn't some fling. Like she wasn't conflicted. There was no hesitation in her kiss. No guilt in her touch. I don't know how long I sat there at that gas station. I watched people come and go. A dad carrying 2 slushies to his kids. A young couple holding hands. A woman laughing into her phone. All of them living their lives, unaware that mine had just been split open. Eventually, I drove home. It was past midnight when I pulled into the driveway. The porch light was still on. I stood outside the door for a long time, key in hand, trying to decide if I even wanted to go in. Everything inside would remind me of her, of us, and that us didn't feel real anymore. When I finally stepped inside, the house was cold. I turned off the porch light, dropped my keys on the counter, and stared at the space where her shoes used to be. The ones she always kicked off half-crooked. Gone now. Or maybe not, but they felt gone. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were still shaking. My throat was dry. I leaned against the sink and let my forehead rest on the cabinet above. What now? Do I confront her? Do I scream? Do I demand to know how long this has been going on? Do I ask if she ever really loved me? I didn't do any of that. I turned off the lights, went upstairs, and lay on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. Lisa didn't come home that night, or the next. She texted. She called. Left voicemails. Long, rambling apologies that didn't say anything real. I didn't mean for you to find out like that. It's complicated. You don't understand. He's not what you think. But I understood plenty. The worst part? I didn't feel angry yet. I felt empty. Like someone had scooped out everything I believed about my marriage and left me with the shell of a life I didn't recognize anymore. I didn't rage. Didn't yell. Didn't call her screaming in the middle of the night. That's what you'd expect from someone in my shoes, right? The classic scene. Shattered glass, broken picture frames, some primal moment of fury to match the depth of betrayal. But that's not how it happened. Instead, I came home and sat in the dark. I listened to the sound of the fridge humming and the faint tick of the living room clock. I stared at the spot where we once kept a framed photo from our trip to Oregon, the one where Lisa's hair blew across her face, and she laughed when I took the picture anyway. That photo wasn't there anymore. I couldn't remember when it disappeared. Weeks ago? Months? Maybe it had been gone longer than I realized. She hadn't come back since I drove away from that cabin. She tried, called twice the next day, left voicemails filled with cracks in her voice and half-hearted explanations. Please just let me talk to you. You don't know the full story. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't listen to them all. I deleted most after the first few seconds. I wasn't interested in her version of not what it looks like. I'd seen it with my own eyes, through clean glass and firelight. I wasn't a fool anymore. I was just a man trying to figure out what the hell to do next. So I didn't explode. I documented. It started with our doorbell camera. I hadn't checked it in months, we barely used it except for deliveries. But it kept a log. Time-stamped footage. I scrolled through the past few weeks. She'd had visitors I never met. A tall man who showed up twice, always parking around the corner. Once in the middle of the day when I was at work. Another time late in the evening when she claimed to be grabbing drinks with Megan. He didn't stay long either time, but the timing lined up too perfectly with other lies. Then I checked our shared Google account. Location history. She must have forgotten it synced to our family calendar. I opened the timeline and stared. It didn't lie. It never does. She'd been at the same address multiple times, an apartment complex on the other side of the city. Every Thursday for 3 weeks straight, during times she claimed to be working late. I Googled the address, found the listings, mid-tier apartment units, 2 bedrooms, balconies not far from a gym and wine bar. Then I recognized a name on one of the mailbox units. I'd seen it before on a flyer she brought home from some fundraiser. It was his. He wasn't a stranger. He worked with her. I saw him once at an event, shaking hands with donors. One of those overly charming types who always said your name twice in a sentence. Now I knew where he lived, and I knew how often she was there. I started building a folder. Not out of spite, not yet, but out of self-preservation. I needed to see it for myself, to track the pattern. I pulled credit card statements, sorted through Uber receipts. *TS from Find My iPhone. All of it told the same story. She was living 2 lives, and only one of them had anything to do with me. A few of the receipts stung more than others. Dinner for 2 at restaurants we used to call our places. A hotel booking during a work retreat. One charge for a boutique where she once dragged me through racks of lingerie, teasing me about what color I liked best. It was there she bought the bodysuit I found. I felt sick. Still, I didn't confront her. Not in person. Not over the phone. There's a strange power in silence. It makes people squirm more than shouting ever could. Lisa texted me again 2 days after the cabin. Lisa, can we please talk? You can't just ignore me forever. Me, I'm not ignoring you. I'm observing. No reply after that. Not for a full day. The next evening, she showed up. I heard her car before I saw it. Tires crunching over our driveway gravel, the sound too casual for someone whose world should have been on fire. I didn't answer the door right away, just watched her through the peephole. She looked tired, eyes ringed in red, hair pulled back in a loose knot. Not glamorous, not dolled up like when she'd leave the house for her gym runs. She knocked again. Jason, she said through the door. I'm not here to fight. I just want to talk. Please. I opened the door halfway, keeping my hand on the frame. She blinked at me, almost surprised I'd actually answered. I didn't know what else to do, she said quietly. I needed to see you. I didn't say anything. She stepped forward but stopped herself. You didn't come back, she added. After the cabin. I had no reason to. Her face crumpled slightly, but she held it together. I'm sorry, she said. I don't know what else to say. You said it all when you kissed him, I replied. She opened her mouth, but I stopped her. I don't want a performance. I don't want the script. I want the truth. Do you have it in you? Silence. And then, finally, a whisper. I don't know. I stepped back, opened the door wider. Come in, I said. Not to fix this, just to finish it. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure if she should. Her eyes scanned the living room. Nothing had changed, but it probably felt different. Cold. Exposed. I sat on the couch. She stood by the kitchen counter like she couldn't get any closer. I gestured to the manila folder sitting on the coffee table. Everything's in there, I said. Doorbell footage, GPS logs, receipts, *TS. Your life, the one you lived while I was stupid enough to think you were mine. She reached for the folder, then stopped. Her hand hovered for a moment, then dropped to her side. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, I replied. Repeatedly. She closed her eyes. I didn't know how to stop, she said. It started when we were barely speaking. I felt invisible. And then someone saw me again. Someone else, I clarified. She nodded. I took a deep breath. You could have said something, Lisa. You could have told me you were unhappy, that you were lonely, that something was broken. I didn't want to break it more, she said. I didn't want to be the bad guy. But you were, I said flatly. You just didn't have the courage to admit it. She didn't argue. We sat in silence for a while. Just the hum of the fridge again. The same sounds that had greeted me after I saw her with him. Finally, I stood. I'm not throwing anything. I'm not yelling. I'm not begging you to stay. But I am done. Tears filled her eyes. Please, don't do this like I don't matter. I stared at her. You mattered. Past tense. She wiped her cheek. You're not even going to ask me why I did it? I already know, I said. You did it because you could. Because it was easier than working on what we had. Because lies are softer than truths. I walked to the door and opened it again. I'll send you the divorce papers by next week, I said. The rest, lawyers can sort out. She didn't move at first. Just looked at me, eyes wide with something I couldn't name. Regret? Shame? Maybe just the fear of consequences finally catching up. When she did walk out, she didn't slam the door. She closed it gently, and I locked it behind her. Not out of spite, out of closure. That night I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't spiral. I just pulled out my laptop and started organizing the digital timeline of her affair. I color-coded it, date-stamped it, created a spreadsheet. Not because I needed more proof, but because I needed control, even if it was only over pixels and dates. By 2 a.m., I had everything sorted. I named the folder Closure. Then I shut the laptop, turned out the lights, and slept alone in the silence she left behind. There's something strange about grief. It doesn't always hit when it's supposed to. After Lisa walked out that night, I kept waiting for the dam to break. Some wave of sadness or rage to knock me over. But nothing came. Not immediately. I wasn't numb exactly. I was just calm. Hollow, maybe. Like my heart had stepped out of the room and left me behind to sort through the mess. And yet, life kept moving. The emails didn't stop. Meetings still happened. People still waved at me in the grocery store. The world didn't pause just because mine had. Lisa didn't come back to the house. She sent a few texts over the next few days. Mostly logistical stuff. Can I come get some clothes? Where did we put the file box with our tax stuff? I answered only when I had to. One-word replies. I didn't ask how she was. I didn't want to know. Then something unexpected happened. About 2 weeks after the cabin, just when I'd started breathing a little easier, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, I listened to it. Hi, this message is for Jason Reynolds. My name is Amelia Clark from the HR department at Callaway Group. We're conducting a standard compliance follow-up regarding a personnel matter. Please call us back when you're available. Callaway Group. Lisa's company. My stomach turned. I called back, and Amelia answered right away. Her tone was polite but clipped, professional. She asked if we could verify my identity. Then she asked one more thing. Do you happen to be aware of a Mr. Tyler Baines? I froze. The name clicked instantly. That was him. The man from the cabin. Yeah, I said cautiously. Why? She hesitated. We're looking into an internal report involving inappropriate use of company resources, falsified time cards, and undisclosed relationships between staff. Your name came up because you're listed as an emergency contact for Lisa Reynolds. We're trying to confirm a few details. My throat went dry. I didn't know what to say. I'm not sure what I can help with, I replied. We're currently separated. There was a pause. I see, she said. Well, I won't take up more of your time. Just know there may be follow-up requests. Wait, I said before she hung up. Is this about Lisa and Tyler? Another pause. I can't confirm details, she said almost gently. But I can tell you the audit involves both parties. That was all I needed. The call ended, and I just stood there in the kitchen, staring at nothing. The weight of it was different from before, not like betrayal but justice. Something I hadn't expected. Something I didn't cause. I hadn't turned her in. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't told a soul at her work. And yet here it was, catching up to her without any help from me. The truth has a way of crawling out of the cracks no matter how many rugs you try to shove it under. Later that week, I heard more. It came from a mutual friend, Amy, who worked on Lisa's old design team. She texted me, out of nowhere, "Hey, I know things have been rough. I didn't want to get involved, but you might want to know they're investigating Lisa at work. Word is it's bad." HR pulled a bunch of emails. I didn't respond, but I couldn't help picturing it. The long, beige HR conference room. Lisa sitting across from a woman with a clipboard, answering questions with that same tone she used with me. Too calm, too confident, thinking she could manage the narrative again. Except this time, the facts weren't hers to spin. Turns out they had proof. Calendar logs, messages sent on company time, private meetings blocked as team syncs that were anything but, and worst of all, evidence that she and Tyler had used their work laptops to book rooms and Airbnb stays during client trips. Some of the charges had even gone through the company card. Sloppy. He was fired. She was suspended. Just like that. I didn't hear it from her directly. Not right away. But when it hit her, she must have assumed I was behind it, that I'd pulled some string or sent a tip. She showed up again. I was out front trimming the hedge when her car rolled into the driveway too fast, tires skidding slightly. She slammed the door, stormed toward me, and before I could say anything, she was in my face. "Why did you do it?" she snapped. "Why would you go to my job and—" "I didn't," I said flatly. Her mouth stayed open like she had more to say, but the words stalled. "What?" she asked. "I didn't do anything," I repeated. "I didn't call anyone. I didn't send anything. I didn't have to." She blinked, caught off guard by how calm I was, how quiet. "Then how did they know?" she asked, more to herself than to me. "Maybe," I said, turning back to the hedge. The truth got tired of being ignored. She didn't respond. I kept trimming. When I finally looked back, she was still standing there. Smaller now, somehow. Deflated. "I lost everything," she whispered. "My job, my projects. People won't even sit near me in meetings." I tilted my head. "That's funny. I lost everything too. Just a little earlier." She flinched. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she muttered. "You weren't supposed to get caught," I corrected. "But you did." And then I walked past her, back toward the house. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it behind me. She didn't follow. After that, she stopped showing up. The texts trickled out. Mostly things like, "I don't know who I am anymore," or, "I don't blame you if you hate me." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She had already gotten more closure than she gave me. I spent those next few weeks cleaning up. Met with a divorce attorney. Sorted the bank accounts. Rerouted the utilities into my name. I didn't do anything out of spite. I wasn't after revenge. I was after distance. Clean, irreversible distance. I stopped checking her social media. I unfollowed mutual friends. I stopped wondering if she was still with him, or if he had dumped her now that the secret life turned real. The truth was, I didn't care. She had built something behind my back, and like most things built in the dark, it collapsed the moment the lights came on. And I didn't have to lift a finger. That was the part one kept coming back to. I didn't expose her. I didn't plan her downfall. I just stepped out of her way and let the truth do what it always does, catch up. It wasn't karma. It wasn't justice. It was simply reality, unfolding like it was always going to. And me? I was done waiting for explanations. I filed quietly, no yelling, no warnings. Moved my savings, packed essentials, signed the papers. Lisa spiraled. Job gone. Friends distant. She clung to apologies like they could glue things back. But I didn't argue. I didn't return fire. I was just done. The house echoed now, stripped of warmth. I came by rarely, only to grab what was mine. Her world collapsed on its own. I just stopped holding it up. I live near the ocean now. Quiet place. No questions. No lies, just waves. I don't replay what happened, I let it drift. But sometimes, I see her barefoot in that blanket, chasing my car, and I feel nothing. Not hate, not pride, just silence. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't fire. It was peace. Real, boring, beautiful peace. I didn't win. I just walked away from the wreckage and never looked back.